Welcome to Great Talk and Entertainment. I'm your host, KJ, and this is the YouTube channel where I review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and much more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talk and Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby. Welcome back, everyone, to the YouTube channel, and this is my spoiler review for the new film of 2025, Superman. And if you have not seen this, please pause this, hit that thumbs up button on this YouTube channel, because that would help my channel out very well. And definitely check out my non-spoiler review for the new Superman film of 2025. And check that out if you have not seen this film. But if you have, sit back and relax and check this out. And let me know in the comments below what you think about this new 2025 film, Superman, in the comments below. And I would love to hear your fan theory. So, again, y'all been warned. Now, let's get into it. This film starts off with words on the screen in the Antarctic before Superman is landed on the ground in the snow, right? And it's just explaining about a little bit of the origin story of Superman, and it's just a quicker way to glaze over and mention about many humans existing X amount of years, like billions of years ago, and just setting up like this universe is already established, many humans, this is very normal, even though they're scared of Superman. Some are a fan of Superman, of course, like the people are, but like the government's not. And so they're already setting it up already. Like this is a new universe that James Gunn has developed, that this universe, again, is already well established, and they are all aware of like many humans, superheroes, and vigilantes. So they all exist, and we just have not been introduced to these characters yet in this version by James Gunn. So, already on the start, just kind of what I notice is like this is like kind of like the first thing you see in like the teaser trailer, and maybe I do believe in the Fisher trailer, where Superman's calling for Crypto, the dog, which I loved about this film was it was about a man's best friend. Even though we know at the end, like, which we'll explain about Crypto the dog and why does Superman have Crypto the dog in the first place and all that. But this was definitely a man trying to save his dog type story. Because in this, Crypto is very a dog-like. He does everything you would expect a dog would do if you're a dog owner. You expect like your dog would like be super excited to see you, just not paying attention. Sometimes they're bad and just they don't listen. Just normal pet owner stuff that I think all us pet owners have to deal with at times. So definitely had that, but Crypto the dog finally takes the injured Superman back to his lair, which is the Fortress of Solitude, and Superman robots heal him up by, let him chill by the sun. And we see this message that kind of keeps Superman calm, soothes him down. It's just a video of his parents. They're obviously speaking in Kryptonian, and he finally kind of heals up, but he goes back and fights this character named Ultraman. And we know that Lex Luthor is commanding Ultraman. He's even telling him what to do. He has like on a microphone. He'll say a command, and then Ultraman does like the combat fighting style where it's punching, kicking, blasting, tossing Superman around. But what I really like about what Nicholas Hulse, who plays Lex Luthor, is he really showcases the obsession and jealousy that he has for Superman. And this definitely reminds me of Lex Luthor from comic books, the old Superman cartoon show in the 90s or maybe 2000s, and definitely any like the old Justice League cartoon show, or even like in the recent, like not recent, but older DC animation films that they made in the past, where Lex Luthor is very smart, but he's very businessman like. And what I like about this is James Gunn has portrayed Lex Luthor kind of like that boss who he tries to be your bro. He's always friendly, very encouraging, but when you screw up, he flips a switch and he's yelling at you. He hates you. He calls you a failure. Like if you suck at this, he lets you know that you suck. But when you do a good job, he's patting on your back, giving you back rubs, and maybe give you raises, but he'll take it away if you screw it up. Like, and then like he has a girlfriend who's kind of ditzy and stuff, and it's a different take on Lex Luthor, but they keep the classic personality and what you would expect Lex Luthor to be in this. So as he's telling Ultraman to lay the smackdown on Superman, we can kind of see like Metropolis is very well known and they know Superman, and a lot of them are against him, but we see a lot of them are cheering for Superman. And there's a scene where Ultraman like punches him and he falls down to the ground in downtown of Metropolis. And this kind of reminds me of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man starring Tobey Maguire. It's like when Superman falls down and he's hurt and he's trying to get back up, the people want to check on him and say, "Are you okay, Superman?" It kind of reminds me of that with Spider-Man starring Tobey Maguire, that the one that Sam Raimi directed, where if you remember, Spider-Man was like trying to stop a subway train to not fall off, thanks to Dr. Octavius. And that's the kind of vibe I got out of this with Superman in this scene, was that it felt like he's their neighborhood. For Marvel, it's New York is their superhero Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But I guess in a way, in Metropolis, in the DCU universe, Superman is their friendly neighborhood superhero. He's not a vigilante, even though the government would consider him an alien or a vigilante in the certain case of it, because technically Superman doesn't have to answer to nobody, but he participates in that stuff, as we see that throughout this film. So again, James Gunn has already within at least 3 scenes is letting the audience know that this universe is already well established. Like, we're not going to get the little boy Superman. We're not going to see him go through high school. We're not going to get like nothing like that. This is Superman, and nobody knows he's Clark Kent. Right? And so it's kind of like that. And we see the other DC character members, which is the Justice Gang, which is the members of Mr. Terrific, Green Lantern, Guy Gordon, and Hawk Girl, as they are trying to help, Superman fight this like Ultraman guy, which we know it's just a clone version of Superman. Which I think it'd be cool if that became Bizarro. If this is like Bizarro's origin story, the beginning of that, because that'd be cool. And it's a lot different. And we haven't seen like this character in a while in a live action. Like I think they did one in the CW for Superman and Lois, but that's a show I never really watched. But to see Bizarro in a live action in this DCU universe, I think it would be cool. but we won't know about they don't reveal that not until like closer to the end of the film. But I thought, okay, that's an interesting way to introduce this character again in this universe that Lex Luthor started this. But then, it's really interesting what this pocket universe of a black hole that we learn that Lex Luthor has designed, and he locks up many humans, sometimes ex-girlfriends, maybe old bosses. But, he's doing his thug dizzle in this thing, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see where he goes with that idea of it. But yeah, he's got a little setup, and it's not a good thing that he created a pocket universe, because it does include a black hole, like a black space hole, which is very, very dangerous, as we learn about this film. And we know that Lex Luthor is one of those guys who's going to the office, the government, and protesting that metahumans should be locked up. They should be held against accountabilities for breaking the law. They're not even Americans. They're not citizens to them. Like, Lex Luthor is about that life. So, and you know what I like about it? They really got this character down where you're supposed to not like him. You're not supposed to cheer for him. You're definitely supposed to cheer for Superman in this film. And so they got this down right. Like, just make sure that Lex Luthor had scenes in this film where you see him show how much hatred he has towards Superman and other metahumans, and how he's gonna treat other people. I mean, he's got this down good. Like, as we see, like, while he was trying to distract Superman from all this, he had one of his goons, which her name is the Engineer. Well, she was kind of looking for where this is at, but she knows that his hideout somewhere, but she can't find it, because we know the Fortress of Solitude just goes into underground. But we know that Lex Luthor some way somehow finds it, can get the door open, and it goes on from then. But they break into this place too, and they get the data, they tear everything up, and they steal Crypto the dog, which that one was crazy. I like that because this helps the audience want to really definitely cheer for Superman, and you definitely want to boo for Lex Luthor because he was going to hurt the dog, right? And so you got that. And also in this film, they show, which I wish they showed more scenes in this film, but I guess like when you do reshoots and you have to cut out certain scenes, to sacrifice for the ones that they want to make sure that stay in this movie, was the Daily Planet, where Clark Kent works at. And we see, Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. And this Jimmy guy in this universe, he's got a lot of riz. But I love the Daily Planet newspaper place where Superman works at. And I thought it was really cool. I wish they showed more of it, but I can tell that they must have cut a lot of scenes of Superman just doing his regular job, right? Being a journalism news reporter. And I think they cut it out because if when I rewatch this again, I noticed I bet you there were scenes where again Superman's writing a paper about himself. We can see like Lois Lane, who's already dating Superman / Clark Kent, and keeping that a secret. As there's that scene that they showed in the trailer, but they showed in this movie now too, obviously, was Superman decided to let Lois Lane interview him, as Superman basically, and she asked some really tough questions, and he got really upset, and we almost watched their relationship, and so James Gunn is already teasing a breakup between Superman and Lois Lane, which I kind of hope not, because a lot of people think like if there's any more love story that they're gonna tell with Superman, I know a lot of people are thinking Superman's gonna hook up with Wonder Woman. The only reason why I don't want to see that is just because I don't just not interested. I like the love story between Lois Lane and Superman more. Even I like I said, I always prefer Batman and Catwoman love story arc versus the arc between Wonder Woman and Batman. So I really hope that if they do break up, I hope James Gunn does a way where they get back together. But they didn't break up in this one. But just in case he decides to break them up in a part 2, I hope in part 3 of the film, a third film, I would hope they would find a way to get back together. I just don't want to see Wonder Woman hook up between Superman or Batman in this universe. I'm just not interested in that. That's where I'm hoping. So, but the idea that they kind of teased it, and the way throughout this film, it looked like they were going to break up, because in this part, it's like Superman, he's just getting used to being Superman. He's trying his best to find where he fit in, and it seems like their relationship is still fresh, still new. And like, it later down this film, we see like he doesn't tell Lois Lane he loves her until further to the end of this film. So it has a lot of that. But going back to where the Daily Planet, and like, I just feel like they cut a lot of scenes again. But I guess if you had to sacrifice and cut a lot of scenes out to keep the ones that are really important that James Gunn wanted to do, I guess that would be the one. I just thought it'd be cool to see him do Superman, Clark Kent do Clark Kent stuff at his job. And, they didn't really show his parents, his Earth parents. I mean, they did, but not as much as like Man of Steel did. Not as much as Superman and Lois series on the CW. They didn't really, this one they really just had one scene. So I can tell in general they cut a lot out. But as this film continues on, we know Lex Luthor stole the dog, and we know Lex Luthor took the video data of Superman's parents from Krypto. And the message he released is saying that Superman's parents wanted Superman to go rebuild Kryptonia on Earth and have everybody treat him like a god, a king, a ruler. And he was supposed to have multiple wives because that's how they wanted to. And so, a lot of people I've seen are kind of upset about this idea. But if you think about it, James Gunn even explains, like, why would that not be surprising that his parents were kind of dickish in a way? Because if you think about it, this is kind of like an immigrant story in a way. They speak a different language. They're not citizens of planet Earth. They think differently. They lived on their own. I get why. And technically his parents are like gods. This is the Gods and Monsters universe that James Gunn has talked about in the earlier stages when he got hired on by Warner Brothers Discovery, and he laid out like a blueprint of what he was going to do. And the one thing he kind of mentioned earlier, way before he even did probably Suicide Squad, or maybe after the Suicide Squad, but he said Gods and Monsters, and this is kind of it. Like, so really, honestly, why be shocked that James Gunn kind of changed the story up a little bit? And I think it makes the story much interesting of his origin story, of that maybe his parents don't care about planet Earth like that. Maybe the whole point of sending their son to Earth was to rebirth, the Kryptonian race and have planet Earth be the new home. Like, why? I mean, for years I get it. They send him away to protect the sun, and then General Zod would come down and fight. But I think what James Gunn's going with this, I think it's a lot better. And I think it's going to be more interesting, and I think it's going to be more entertaining to watch story-wise in other future projects that could include Superman or just a sequel to this Superman film. So I'm not upset with it. I think this is the right way to go with it. And maybe they'll get a backstory that will make sense, because James Gunn said he's not going to backpedal this thing. So I'm down for it. Now, the whole reason why, too, that Lex Luthor is really trying to take down Superman is obviously jealousy and just how much hatred he has towards, is because it also, Superman could ruin his main plan, which is he plans to secure a portion of the conquered territory of Japar to establish his own national potential and name it Luthoria and profit from its resource. He lures Superman into a pocket universe where he holds his enemies captive, using a leverage to manipulate to try to force Metamorphio to turn into kryptonite and kill Superman, because that's his weakness. But in this film, they call him Rex. While the creation of Luthoria might seem like a primary goal, it's revealed to his ultimate objective is to eliminate Superman, with the territory acquired servings to protect or bonus of his large plan to discredit and destroy the Man of Steel. He is driven by deep-seated hatred and envy, and belief Superman's presence hinders humanity and progress and potential. So this is kind of like there's two things he wants, but nevertheless he just wants to be the one to say he destroyed Superman, eliminated him, and that his ideas should be funded by the government, that he should be in charge, the protector. That's why he has Ultraman, aka the Hammer, to be the person to do all that, and they're going to stop this, quote unquote terrorists in their world. So that's the idea of what he does. And once Lex Luthor gets that message of Superman's parents from Kryptonite or planet Crypto, people are now turning on him. And after he just saved like this whole bunch of people from this giant monster with the Justice Gang, and I really liked that monster. I don't know what it was, but what I liked about that whole scene between that and what Lex Luthor is trying to do is, again, it's showing us that Superman is trying to do the right thing, but there's just a lot of people who just don't agree with him. And Lex Luthor is definitely one of them. And like when I said about that scene when he's fighting the giant monster with the Justice Gang, is the Justice Gang, they're ready to, eliminate this beast, kill him off, right? But Superman was trying to find a way not to do that, because that would cause more damage, destroy buildings and stuff. But, Superman saved a squirrel to a little girl. Like, he tried to save everybody, but yet the people turned on him, and then they all brought out their cell phones and live streamed them and put them all the social medias because of that one message. Now, again, I said I'm not surprised if Superman's actual parents wanted him to rule planet Earth. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. And again, like I said, I'm about that type of story. So I'm glad James Gunn's going with that. So you see the dynamic of Lex Luthor is not a liar. He doesn't lie. He may manipulate. He may do some business moves to step on toes to get his way. But, he's going to get what he wants. But he doesn't have to lie. He doesn't lie about it. He wanted to find some dirt on Superman and use it against him, which he did. Because if you remember in this movie, Lex Luthor talks to some governmental consuls, which is Rick Flag Sr.'s in there, which we saw him in the Creatures of Commando. He appears in this, so there's your Amanda Waller connection in the Suicide Squad and Creature of Commando connection. And so, and you know what's really funny is when they showed Peacemaker, played by John Cena, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not surprised Superman is like this." It's just doubting him. I thought it was just so funny. So now everybody hates Superman. Superman can't help. The Justice Gang's like, if you help, we gotta take you down. You know, I mean, it gets nuts. So now, and so quick, people just turn on him. But he does turn himself in, and they treat him like crap, and they lock him up in this pocket dimension that Lex Luthor has created. But it's not, it's a bad thing, and he should have made it because it's going to open up a big black space hole that could suck up the whole Earth or just Metropolis at the time. But even Gotham City could have got it, but luckily it didn't get to that point. But before all that, it did. And we noticed that, like I said, we met Rex, and he had to use kryptonite. But the only reason why he did it because Lex Luthor had his baby. And you know what? That was not what I loved about that is Superman protecting a baby made him such a hero that, again, James Gunn has done everything in this film where you want to not cheer for Lex Luthor, but cheer for Superman. And I think that's the most important thing is that James Gunn made sure throughout this whole film to give you so many reasons to cheer for Superman and not to be a fan of the evil villain Lex Luthor. And that's a classic Superman story right there. Even like Superman in Trouble, we see Lois Lane talk to like the Justice Gang, and we see Mr. Terrific. He's the only one to help, but he's so smart and he's so terrific at what he does. And to see those two team up was so funny. A lot of comedy in it, but they do get in there to save Superman. And I love Crypto the dog trying to chase these like robotic android that's shaped like a ball, and Crypto the dog would like try to eat, play with them like a toy because that's what dogs do. If you never own a dog, and then you never seen a dog rip up your shoe, your couch, your controllers, then you're not a real dog owner. But that's what dogs do. Good dogs, bad dogs, all type of dogs. Big dogs, small dogs, they do it all. And I love that part, but they get in there. And the only reason why Superman turned himself in is to save that dog, Crypto. And he was mad. He was mad. Like, again, Lex Luthor is such a huge villain in this. He's taking dogs. He's stealing. He's had little babies captured in this little pocket dimension. I mean, he's such a threat. Like, and he didn't have to do the Batman v Superman stuff where that one was. It was good. It was good. I love that movie for what it is. But this one reminds me of a true comic book story. Just little things like that, little scenarios, little storylines like that can make a true comic book villain feel like a villain. He didn't have to go set Superman to fight Batman. He just stole the dog, had a baby in a cell. People were gonna not like Lex Luthor who are watching this film. And that's the perfect idea of telling a superhero story in a live action. So this all, like, to me was such a good thing. Little things like that. Because we saw him, Superman finally gets out. Rex finally's like, "Can you really help my kid? Can you save this?" He goes, "Yeah." And it took him a while to heal because you couldn't get the sun. But Rex, could could shape his whole body or just his hands or whatever to do the same thing of showing the sun's like radiance. That he needs pretty much Superman needs the vitamin D's to get strong again, which he did. He saves that baby, but that poor baby tries to keep that baby alive. And I mean, it was so scary, but they got all out, and they foiled halfway of Lex Luthor's plan, which is really awesome. And again, James Gunn is telling us such a masterpiece superhero story, and he didn't give you too much, and he didn't give you too less in that one scene. But I was on the edge of the seat because I was worried about the baby, I was worried about Crypto, and I was worried about Lex Luthor going to interfere and screw this all up, right? And throughout this film, we finally got a little bit of Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen teaming up, because we find out Jimmy Olsen is kind of dating, kind of hooking up with Lex Luthor's girlfriend, or maybe side piece, who knows, Eve Tessmacher. And throughout this film, she takes selfies, and she's been sending them all to Jimmy Olsen. So she's really smart and clever. Like, Lex Luthor thinks she's just being a ditz, just taking selfies, trying to look sexy. But she's taking photos with some real information that they finally use on her. And this is like, it's crazy. Like, that's the only time you see like people on the Daily Planet in that job actually do their job and be heroic. Like, that's why I feel like they cut out a lot of scenes with those characters. Like, I think they had more scenes, and I think they shot more with like the main boss of the Daily Planet, and I just think they cut it out. Obviously, they wanted to show more Superman action scenes with like Ultraman, aka the Hammer, and aka it could be Bizarro. It could be there's another Superman, evil Superman with the letter U. I mean, it can be any one of those, but I don't think it's that one with the Superman with the letter U on his chest, because he's powered by kryptonite and he's not powered by kryptonite in this one. So it could be just Bizarro in this. But hey, you know what? James Gunn could switch it up anytime, because you never know how they can work, especially with the pocket dimension. That's their theme. Like I said, we saw that kind of like in season 1 of Peacemaker, and now we're seeing it here. So I think the idea of, instead of doing a multiverse, I think James Gunn is going to do like a pocket dimension. Like, there's a small pocket here of some weird shit that could go on, but it's not going to exist in the main timeline all the time. So, I mean, that's a good idea, and it's a safe route to go. So we see that throughout the film, but that's the only time we see those characters do that. So while they're trying to prove that Superman is innocent, that's the only way. And they finally expose Lex Luthor, and everybody realized, oh no, Superman was the good guy the whole time. And then we get to the scene where, again, they reveal Ultraman is just a clone version of Superman, and they have this huge battle. And as they're battling, the pocket dimension is screwing up because Lex Luthor, and I love Lex Luthor in this, where he shows the desperation of just wanting to win, and he's willing to destroy everything in here. But luckily, at the end of this movie, they stop Lex Luthor, and everybody's happy. And at the end of this movie, we find out that Crypto the dog is not actually Superman's dog. It's actually Supergirl's dog, and she just came back from different planets where she can get drunk that has the red sun, because when they're around the regular sun, they can't get drunk. They can drink all the alcohol they want, but they can't get drunk. But if they go to the planets with the red sun, they can get super wasted, super drunk. So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, what I liked about this film, I just loved it just felt like a true Superman adventure. And I love that how they introduced Supergirl in this is like, to me, it sounds like she's going to have a darker theme in her solo film. Obviously, she's drinking a lot and she's younger. They usually make her older, right? With like, because she's the cousin of Superman. And if you watch like the Supergirl show, she was the older cousin. So they're not the first time. Sometimes in comic books they switch the age gap around where Superman's the oldest, Supergirl's the oldest, Supergirl's the youngest, or sometimes Superman is the youngest. It just depends which comic book. But I think from the animation, Supergirl's been the youngest. So I think James Gunn's going to go with the young Supergirl and the older Superman of that. So I wonder who crash landed Earth first, which was probably Superman, and then Supergirl probably crash landed. And the best way you can really, honestly, the only way James Gunn could explain that, not the only way, but one logical way is maybe the course of that spaceship got messed up some way, somehow, because remember, the origin of Superman is pretty much like they had to set coordinations really quick before the planet, Kryptonian's planet, blew up, basically. So it could have just gone off the path, because in this film we finally do see Superman's like human parents, farm parents, and we have that moment where Superman realizes this is his home. He shows like he's a real hero, that he's just like everybody else, and he's just trying to live a regular life and have a family. He doesn't want to be the ruler. He just doesn't want to see innocent people get hurt or bullied, right? And so I'm curious with Supergirl is they're setting it up where I'm not saying she's going to try to conquer the world, but I think that we're going to see her struggle and watch her struggle with her grief of literally watching her whole planet race just get annihilated and stuff. So I think it's going to be like a darker tone in that aspect, just more of grieving, being sad, just hiding her feelings, not knowing how to deal with it. And maybe she feels like she doesn't have anyone to talk to. But she's really connected to Kryptonian, Crypto, the dog. And maybe they were on the same ship together. I mean, there's so many possible ways they can go with it, but the show that she's a little immature. She's a little bit on the wild side. I'm really excited to see this version of Supergirl be portrayed in a live action. And I feel like this is going to have, that probably to me is going to have a lot of Guardian of the Galaxy format to it, or feel to it. But as far as this film, I think James Gunn knocked it out the park. And it's such a masterful piece of story plot telling. Like, I just love the plot of this. I love the story of it. And I love the teases and so many possibilities that I'm just going to enjoy the ride. For me, I think this is really good. I think it's got so much. And here's a topic that I want to bring up too, is can Robert Pattinson's The Batman exist in this? And I said in my non-spoiler review that I don't think it'd be a good idea, even though it would be fun. And if you just go picture by picture, it could work. But I think the idea is, would Superman get soured by Batman, and would Superman sour Batman? And like, because you're gonna they would have to really make a huge sacrifice just to make sure these two characters can fit in. So I think the safe route is just to recast and have somebody else be Batman slash Bruce Wayne in this universe, and just leave the Batman 1 and the Batman 2 in its own Elseworld universe. So I think that's the safe way, because to me, there's we already see the Justice Gang, we see Hawk Girl, and then we see this Green Lantern, and then we see Mr. Terrific. So they didn't give you the main Justice League characters, but they gave you Justice League members that you would see once in a while in the comic books or maybe a cartoon show or animation film. And he left it where you didn't get the big names and they didn't put too much in it, and they stayed focused on Superman and doing his casual adventures that you would see in a Superman movie or in a comic book. So I think what they did, James Gunn did, is really good. And I think him just recasting a Batman with another actor is probably the best route and safest route. I wish they could, and I know they could do it, but that you got to be really creative with it, and man, you can't really have too much flaws in that idea of it. I would love to see it, but I just don't want them to ruin both these films and the franchise they have built for this. So I would say no to it. But this was a really good film. And I think that clone Superman, I believe that would be Bizarro, because he did fall in that black hole. And realistically, and it's a black space hole, right? And this clone of Superman, I think he'll survive it, but it's going to destroy him and make him look ugly. And Lex Luthor has already said he's not smart. So that really hinted the idea this could be Bizarro. He's like, he's not as smart as you, and it's real easy to be smarter than you because Lex Luthor is smarter than Superman in a high Q level. So I think this will be Bizarro in the live action DCU film or reboot of this universe. So that's what I'm betting on that. And I think that's a good idea, just to kind of wait a little bit, because it's way too early to do a Brainiac. It's way too early to do a Darkseid. But I think if you just stick with Superman's villain story arc, I think you can really build up to those big bad villains and stuff. So if I had to give this a movie 1 out of 10, I'm going to give it an 8.5. Really well. I loved it. There were some flaws. Like, to me, I think they made Superman too weak. There's no kryptonite involved, I don't think Superman should get whooped like that. I don't think he should have blood and losing energy. And you can say, well, it's the clone. Yeah, but still, it's too much weakness. Other than that, I wish they had kept more of the scenes with the Daily Planet members who work there, and I wish they didn't really glaze that much over Superman's origin story. I wish they did have a scene where you saw him as a kid and just a little bit of his childhood life, but not a big deal. But it's still such a great movie, and I really think James Gunn's got something going on here, and I can't wait to see how the other projects are connected to this, and I can't wait for a sequel to this, so it's worth it. But that's my spoiler review, all. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talk and Entertainment official channel. Subscribe, hit that notification button so you guys will be updated with all my latest content. Thank you guys, and peace out.